Okay, so I've been sanding down the fuselage, and a couple things to learn from this. One, once you start sanding down, you can actually see where you did get some runs off the top of the elevator. So as you sand down, those become a little more apparent. Now, you guys remember I did the baggage extension, and I did that bar mount with the Aero shaft to hold up the baggage. There was an Adele clamp at the back side of that, and if you push down on the fabric, you can actually contact the rubber on the Adele clamp. Well, the polyfiber manual tells you to be real careful sanding the fabric over any bumps, and that is why. Just 2 passes over and I went through the fabric right there, which really sucks. But if you think about it, it's better to find that now than have it rub from the airflow, flexing the fabric, and have it wear a hole in it later. The other spot, and I don't know what's on the other side, I'll have to take some of the masking off. But I also got a little sand through spot right here, and there's something under there. And I think it's part of the autopilot connection there. So I'm gonna go ahead and patch both of those from the inside and have to do something on the outside, which is really a bummer on this big run here. What I'll probably do is like a nice little moon-shaped piece right there, and on the other side as well, to thicken that up. A couple things to learn. I want to pass on my mistakes so you guys don't make them. But other than that, there's 3 places that need repair on the whole fuselage, wing, and tail. So overall, it came out really, really good. I'm hoping to go in the paint booth tomorrow. I'm going to show you guys my new paint sprayer. This is the Apollo turbine spray system that I ordered, and I'm kind of glad now that it didn't show up at the beginning of the painting project, because it allowed me the opportunity to use the Eastwood spray gun with the compressor and really give me somewhere as a base to compare this to. So we still have 2 silver coats to go, the poly spray on everything. You need 2 more coats on there after sanding the first one. So let me just run through what this system is real quick. If you guys don't know about a turbine system compared to an air compressor system, this green box right here basically replaces the air compressor. It uses gentle, dry air created from the turbines. There's one of these air filters on either side. Sucks in the air, filters it, heats it, and then sends it up this hose. The typical hose on one of these is 15 feet long. Polyfiber recommends that you double that up so that when the air gets to the spray gun, it's not too hot. However, Apollo provides a 31-foot hose, so that wasn't an issue. But yeah, so there's a knob here on it that will increase your air pressure from turning it clockwise, goes all the way up. On-off switch, Hobbs meter, so you can see how much you're using this machine. Is your plug input for the power, goes in there. It does have a quick release style fitting for the hose, so you just pull back the collar, pops in, good to go. And has that same fitting on a post on the machine, so you can pop in your spray gun. I'll get to that spray gun in a minute, but that hose on the other end has the same fitting, pops on, here's your gun. Really lightweight up here compared to the other system where I had moisture filters and a regulator, and the gun actually is a little heavier on the Eastwood or the old spray guns I had. All right, so this one happens to be a 5-stage turbine, which, as far as I know, unless you go super high end, I don't know that you get more than 5. You'll probably see some of these out there with 2, 3-stage. The more stages, the higher the pressure you can get. And the reason the 5-stage is important for what we're doing is because of that thicker paint in the poly brush and the poly silver, the poly spray, which is the silver UV stuff. That's a really pretty thick paint. So we're going to be using a big needle, 1.8 millimeter needle, and the atomizer cup on this is also matched for that with the C-style cup. It moves a lot of air through it to help atomize the paint. So the 5-stage ought to handle it no problem. The long hose is what Polyfiber recommends. Pretty simple unit. It's really, fairly lightweight compared to a compressor. Very easy to take out and set up. So I'm real excited about that. It has all the manuals that come with it. I've read through. It's pretty straightforward. There's really one adjustment. So let's go over the gun, which is the 7700 series, which is their professional gun. Let me just take the cup off it so we can see it a little better. And bring it up closer to the camera. So, pretty awesome gun. It can do bottom cup or top cup. It has a screw right here that you can take out and put in an air nipple. Sorry, I said nipple. That can pressurize either the bottom or the top cup for a pressure pot. Let's see, we've got, when you got full air coming out of the turbine, this top screw here allows you to adjust down the pressure when you spin clockwise, or you can unscrew it and leave it at full pressure. And then you have your normal needle adjustment that you'd have on any spray gun that helps regulate the flow of the paint. And then your pattern, your fan pattern, is just this big knob right here. So right now I'm going to start with it all the way open. So that should be the biggest fan, and then you can narrow it all the way down to basically a spot spray. So we'll mess around with that when we are testing with the cardboard. The CHS cup is supposed to be for the heavier paint, so I'm going to try that. I may switch to some of the other cups, and I'll show you those in a second. This outer collar, if you loosen it up, allows you to spin the atomizer tip so that you can spray vertically, spray horizontally, do a 45, whatever. You just tighten it down, it stays where you're at. So anyway, really good gun. Excited about that. Here is the case for that gun. So that's it. That's the turbine sprayer. I can't really say too much about it more than that right now because I haven't used it yet. So let me go ahead and put the paint booth up, and let's check this thing out. All right, day one with the Apollo HVLP turbo sprayer. This thing is awesome. What a night and day difference. I'm not just saying that because I want you guys to really consider this as a unit to use to paint your airplane. I do want you to because it is awesome. I will put the video up of how it lays down. The mist is perfect. The fan pattern is consistently the same width, good coverage, totally adjustable. You can set it up. I mean, you can just dial it in. It took me about 3 minutes to dial in the perfect fan pattern and the amount of paint I wanted to come out. The first couple passes, I was putting a little bit too much on, so I was blowing through my paint pretty quick. So that is something I noticed. Even though you're getting 80 to 90% of your product on, you're putting a lot more of the product on. You may not even need the full 3 coats. We'll see when we do the light test after this last coat, the second coat of silver. It laid down such a good coat that it's a lot more on there than there was the first coat. So it did just a fantastic job. I mean, there's no way I'm going back to the air compressor unit after this. It is just super simple to use. Probably doesn't use as much power either because you just turn this on. It runs a nice consistent speed versus an air compressor kicking on and kicking off with that heavy load all the time. I did throw a couple circuit breakers when I was using the air compressor. This one just hummed along, no problem at all. This thing's fantastic, guys. I'll let it speak for itself. I'll show you, I'll run the video, and it's just great. Paint day. Enough horsing around. Let's get some color on this thing. It is warm today. It's probably going to be about 75, 80 degrees in the booth. So I am going to use the RR8500 reducer. 1 part of this, 4 parts of the paint. I am using the Rancho Silver. The 222M or 222M is the polytone code. If you guys have seen the Kitfox factory demonstrator, John McBean's silver STI with the green stripe, this is the color of that silver. Everything's pumped up, ready. Just need to mix up the paint. Gun's ready to go. I've got the sprayer all set up, ready to go, and we'll get after it. Got 2 coats down on the fuselage. I'm gonna go take a look at it. Boy, it got hot in there today. It was 95 degrees in the booth. I think that's too hot based on what I was reading in the manual. The dry time is just gonna be too quick with that. So I can either add additional blush reducer, which is this stuff right here, to try to make it dry slower. It's not necessarily showing any signs that it's you know, having any problems or anything, but the overall gloss finish will be more gloss if it dries slowly. So it'll be more of a flat finish if it dries fast, like it's gonna be doing right now. So I did 2 coats with that silver. It's really actually hard to see the silver coats go down because it is so similar to the poly spray. It's just a little bit darker, just ever so slightly darker, and it has more metallic-y to it, and it does hopefully keep the shine, the gloss, a little bit better. So it's been in there drying for an hour and a half on the second coat. I'm gonna pull that out, and then I'm gonna put the wings. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get the first coat down at least on the wings, and I could actually maybe get the second coat. That would be awesome before I wrap it up for the night. So I'm gonna go and pull the fuselage out. I am in a hurry to get this stuff done, guys, so if I miss some steps, this video is running way long already. I know you guys want to see it done, so I'm going to kind of taper back on what I'm filming until I start using the colors that will really show a difference, because right now the silver doesn't look a whole lot different than what I've got going on. So I'm going to put the cameras down for the rest of the day and get this silver done, and I'll turn them back on when we start laying the black. Alright, quick update. The silver coats of the color silver, the Rancho silver, are done on the wings. Fuselage is done, it's drying. The tail pieces that get silver, see one back there, one over here, one out there, are all done. Let's go take a quick peek in the paint booth. Sorry about the fan noise. See the fuselage. Okay, it's black paint on the fuselage day, so let me show you where we're at here. We're all taped off and masked with plastic and pinstriping tape with masking tape up to it. Full length. It's on its side right now. Let me tip it up. You can see the stripe line. Okay. So the upper portion is all going to be black. Going to come down, kind of join right at the kind of the angle piece in the door, and then it's going to taper off. So everything below the tape line will be silver, everything above it will be black. Alright guys, I got the fuselage out of the paint booth. First look at the black and silver. It's a little washed out with the exposure here from the sun, but go around this side and get a little better picture. And then I've got the Behringer wheels and tires, Alaska Bush Wheel 29s. Shock Monster landing gear. It is all ready to go on. This has been a long project, doing the covering and the paint, and so rewarding. There's been times where I thought it would never end. I was really worried about the paint. Shouldn't be. You get the right equipment, paint booth, that sprayer from Apollo. I mean, it makes it so easy. Guys, if I can do a paint job, anybody can do a paint job. Seriously. if you just follow the directions, and the prep work is the key, make sure you're wiping it down, you're cleaning it between every coat, and use the proper mixes, shoot at the proper temperatures, and it's not going to come out looking like a factory paint job, but this came out looking really, really good. So, I'm real happy with the product, the tools I chose to do the job. I'm super excited about that. Paint booth, guys, if you don't have the space to make a paint booth, that's an awesome way to go. I just got it off of Amazon. It was a gamble. Totally paid off. I love it. The Polo paint gun, I 100% recommend the Turbine. Going a cheap air compressor way, it's not a cheap air compressor, but it's not, the air compressor I had was not adequate for doing this job. And an adequate air compressor is going to cost you almost as much as that entire sprayer system, which comes with the gun and the turbine, where you just get the compressor, then you still have to choose what guns you're going to buy. Some guys have had success with the Harbor Freight cheap guns. The Eastwood gun I used was about a $75 gun. It did a pretty decent job. You know, as far as air compressor wise, I was happy with that gun setup. And when I switched to the Turbine, and they're a really nice gun. Again, here it is, the 7700. It's night and day. I mean, it lays down such a good spray. It was easy to get a nice even coat, and I couldn't recommend going with the Turbine more. Just do it right the first time, bite the bullet on the tools. Now that I'm done with the project, I get to keep that. My wife wants to do the cabinets. Guess what? I got the booth, I got the gun. We can pull the doors off, get in there, and paint them properly. So, like I said before, if you can do it for the same price or cheaper, and that includes buying the tools, then do it yourself, because you get to keep the tools afterwards. So anyway, guys, I don't want to keep this too long. I'm excited. We'll get the landing gear on it, and then we'll get some more pictures. Oh man, I'm so excited it's done. It's not done. I mean, I got 90% to go still, but man, how rewarding is it looking like that? Oh, I love it. I love it, man. And I tell you, I was afraid to do this paint. I was dreading it. And I knew that it was going to be the biggest hurdle in this project. And it was not bad. It was fun. It was a lot of work. The fabric and the paint is a lot of work. But it's not hard, man. It just takes time. And I tell you, if you do the research, read the manual so you know what you're doing, and get the right equipment. Get the right equipment the first time. And if you do it yourself, you get to keep the equipment. So a couple things to make the paint job totally doable for anyone. have somewhere clean that you can do the paint. You can't do it outside. It's going to come out terrible. You're going to have bugs and dirt and pollen, especially this time of year. There's pollen everywhere. If you can't build a paint booth, buy one of these inflatable things. I mean, I'm not selling them. I'm just telling you what a great investment. It's been totally versatile. I've got stuff in there right now so that I could work in the garage. I put the wings and the tail and everything in there. They got a little bit more paint to do on those. It's a safe, clean environment for them to be. With that structure I built, it's not turned on, so it's deflated, and it's a good place for them to hang out. So get yourself a good, clean environment to do the paint. And then I cannot recommend any more. I mean, just absolutely 100% convinced that Apollo turbine sprayer is what made this so freaking easy. It's an awesome machine. It is completely dummy proof. I mean, there's one switch on it and a dial. I mean, it didn't take much to figure it out. The gun is a professional level spray gun, and it just does an amazing job. Compared to the air compressor ones, it was night and day. The air compressor ones, when you shot, you'd have a thicker coverage in the center than you would on the edges of the fan. So you'd have to be really careful how you overlap, because you'd end up getting lines, basically, instead of a nice coverage. With the Apollo system, it was a nice wide fan. Again, it varied by how far away from the surface you were, but it was a consistent amount of paint from left to right all the way across the fan. So you could lay it down just real consistently, come back with a 2/3 overlap or a 1/3, whatever you want to do when you're overlap. And it made it so much easier. I actually really like doing it. I don't know, I'm going to be sad that I'm done with it, because there's a lot more to do still. But when I started getting into the color part, it is so rewarding to see it go down. I mean, I couldn't wait to pull the tape off this and see how it turned out. There's like one teeny spot that I need to do touch up on. Otherwise, I'm real happy with it. The airplane came out awesome. Here's one of the wings. You see the black leading edge. It came out really nice. Again, it's got some pollen on it. That's not cool, but whatever. Got the stripe on there. Got to get these inside. That's why I'm cleaning up the shop. I did have a run on the tip of the other wing, and it wasn't bad, but it was enough that I wanted to fix it, so I went ahead and took that down. Alright guys, so as I wrap up the paint, see the airplane sitting outside as we reorganize the shop. I'm moving all the paint supplies over here to the workbench, or to the storage shelf. Reorganize that, getting everything ready to start with the wiring, avionics, and firewall forward. See the engine sitting over here temporarily with the firewall and the engine mount. But what I wanted to talk about real quick is the required supplies to do the fabric and the paint. A lot of you guys have asked how much of what. That's what I used. And before I start into those specifics, there's a couple other things that are optional, like the epoxy varnish. You get the reducer there. So here's the epoxy varnish for the wood flooring. So you're going to have those two there, and you're going to need some of the E500 reducer. So we can add those to it. So that's for the varnishing. These are my leftover supplies that I didn't use. I've got a gallon extra poly spray, some pre-mixed poly brush. These are my enamel paints that are going to be used next. And then I've got some colors that I decided not to go with. So let's go over and take a look at what we did use. So first off, to do the covering, I would suggest a minimum of 3 of these quarts of Polytack. Now, I used completely 1 and 2, and I've got about 1/3 left of the 3rd one. The C2210 paint surface cleaner, I'd get 2 of these. I've been rationing it. I'm down almost out, and I still have some cleaning to do as far as the flapper-on paint and the enamel stuff I have to paint. So 2 of the C2210 paint surface cleaners. MEK, I went through, more than I have here. I actually went through 3 gallons of the acetone just in washing out the fuel tanks, and I saved it and then reused it to clean paintbrushes and such. MEK you can't get here in California anymore, so that's a high commodity. I actually went through about 2 gallons of that. Here's all your reducers. Now, just to make the math simple on the reducer, if you take a can of any of these next ones, you have to have a quart per can. So if you get a gallon of poly brush, poly spray, or polytone, you need a quart per gallon. So do your math on that. I actually ran short, had to buy extra. So I went through 2 gallons of the 65-75 reducer doing the poly brush and the poly spray. I went through a gallon of the 8500, not quite. I started out actually with a quart, and I still have some left on that. But a full gallon of the 8500 and at least 2 of the 65s will get you there. I also got a quart of the 8600. There's quite a bit of that left. That's the brush or blush retardant for the final coats. All right, so that's your reducers. All right, next we had the poly brush. You can see I used 4 gallons and 1 quart of the poly brush. So plan up accordingly on that. And that's with your brush on coats, your tapes, putting down your tapes, you need the poly brush, and then 2 to 3 sprayed coats of the poly brush to get a good finish on it before you start. Next, we went with the poly spray, 3 gallons, at least 3 gallons. I ended up buying another gallon that I have that I didn't tap into, so that's what I used, is 3 gallons of that. The polytone, 3 gallons ought to cover you on the finish coat. I did about 1.5 gallons of the silver, and I didn't use but about 1/2 gallon of the black, but you figure you're going to be about 3 gallons total, to get that done. You could do it by the quart, but it's not efficient. The next step is to do the non-fabric surfaces, and for that you need the epoxy primer. So this is going to go on the cowlings, all the metal parts like the flaperons. You need a catalyst for that because it's 2-part, and then you need a flattener for that in order to match the gloss level of the polytone on the fabric. Because this is way glossier, you're going to flatten it out just a little bit to try to match them. And then there's a pint of each. I have 2 pints actually of the black just in case, but a pint of black, a pint of silver to do those accent pieces in metal. So that is my supply for the paint and fabric process. So one little last bit of information I want to share with you guys is how much time I put on the Apollo sprayer in the paint booth. It does have a Hobbs meter on it, and I put 8.8 hours on it since I started using that machine. So I did several coats of paint before using the air compressor setup, but with the Apollo I did 2 coats of silver and then all the color coats on top of that, and that was 8.8 hours total. So a lot of time in that paint booth, so keep that in mind when you're looking at these projects, how much time you're going to spend doing certain things. That's actual spray gun time, not prep, not any of the other work that's involved in getting ready to shoot, but that's actual shooting time is 8.8 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up here. Sorry it took so long to get this one out. I know you guys have been patient. I just been rolling with this time I've had to put into the project, just trying to get as much done as I can. You can see behind me, we'll get into this on the next video, a little sneak peek there at the panel. That's rolling along really good, and getting a lot done. So pretty excited about it. You guys go ahead and hit the subscribe button, send me some comments if you have any questions, and hit the notification if you want to know when the next one posts. We'll see you on the next one.